The rain had been falling for hours, washing the streets of the small town clean, but leaving behind the kind of silence that made people uneasy. For Ethan Malik, a single father who had been juggling work, bills, and raising his 8-year-old son Noah alone, nights like this brought a strange mix of peace and worry. Peace because the world quieted down, worry because he knew one emergency, one unexpected turn, could flip his already fragile life upside down. Ethan worked late shifts at a small repair shop. It didn't pay much, but it paid enough to keep food on the table. Tonight, he had left work late after finishing a job for a customer who pleaded for urgent help. By the time he began the walk home, his jacket hood was soaked, and his boots splashed through puddles glowing under dim streetlights. Noah would be asleep by now, probably hugging that now teddy bear Ethan could never replace. His sister, Zara, stayed with him whenever Ethan worked late. She loved Noah like her own child, especially after the tragedy that had taken Ethan's wife 2 years ago. He walked thinking about tomorrow, about rent, about bills he hadn't opened yet. And then suddenly something shattered the rhythm of the rain, a faint cry, a breathless gasp, a voice so weak it almost blended with the wind. "Help, please." Ethan stopped. His heart kicked hard against his ribs. He turned toward the sound, an abandoned alley between an old pharmacy and a storage building. The alley was dark, but not silent. Another groan, labored, painful. Ethan stepped forward slowly, pulling out his phone, flashlight on. The beam cut through the darkness, and froze on a sight he would never forget. A woman lay on the ground, her uniform soaked in blood, her badge barely visible on her chest. Her right hand clutched her abdomen, her left reached weakly toward him. She was a cop, a young one, maybe late 20s. Her breaths were shallow, her face pale. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Ethan whispered, kneeling beside her. Her eyelids fluttered. "I can't breathe. Stay with me." Ethan said quickly, his voice shaking, "I'm calling an ambulance." Her fingers curled around his wrist with surprising strength. "No ambulance," she whispered, forcing the words through clenched teeth. They're listening, someone, inside the force." Ethan froze inside the force. This was more than a random attack. "Please," she whispered, "take the drive. Don't let them find me before you hide it." She pressed something small and metallic into his palm. A tiny flash drive, slick with blood. Ethan's breath caught. "Who did this to you?" She shook her head, trying to speak, but a cough, deep and painful, tore out of her chest. "Save yourself and your boy," she whispered. That shook Ethan to his core. "How do you know about my boy?" he asked, but she didn't answer. Her hand dropped, her eyes closed, her chest fell and didn't rise again. No, stay with me." Ethan panicked, tapping her cheek, checking for breath. Nothing. He looked at his hands, covered in her blood, the uniform, the badge, the flash drive burning in his palm. He had found a dying female cop, and whatever she had given him, someone had killed for it. Suddenly, the screech of a car pierced the night. Headlights turned into the alley. Ethan's instincts screamed. He ducked behind a dumpster at the last second, heart pounding as 2 men stepped out of the car. Dark clothes, no police markings, but the way they moved, their flashlights, the body language. They were trained, not random thugs. One of them walked to the body. "She's dead." He muttered, "She must have crawled out before we burned the place." "Search the area." The taller man ordered. "We need that drive. If she gave it to someone, we clean it up." Ethan's blood ran cold. They were hunting what he now carried. He held his breath as the men scanned the alley. One beam of light came dangerously close to the dumpster. Ethan closed his eyes. A phone rang. The men paused. "Yeah." The tall man answered, "No, nothing yet, but don't worry. Whoever took it won't live long." And then, after a moment, "Yes, Sergeant." Ethan's breath stopped. These weren't criminals. These were cops, corrupt ones, and they had just called a sergeant. He waited until they drove away before scrambling out of the alley, wiping the blood off his hands, and running home faster than he ever had in his life. By the time he reached his small apartment, he was drenched in both rain and fear. Zara opened the door, confused. "Ethan, you look like, where's Noah?" Ethan gasped, "Asleep." "Ethan, what's wrong?" I found someone," he whispered. "A cop, she died, and Zara, I think I'm in danger." He showed her the flash drive. Zara's face drained of color. What's on it? I don't know, but people. Cops are looking for it. They killed her for it. Zara shut the door quickly and locked it. Okay, we need to think before doing anything stupid. They sat in the dim kitchen while Noah slept peacefully in the next room. Zara finally said, "We need to see what's on that drive." Ethan nodded. They plugged it into his old laptop. A folder popped up. Inside were dozens of video files, documents, financial logs, voice notes. The first video was time-stamped 2 days ago. They clicked it. The dying female cop, alive, healthy, determined, sat at a messy desk, speaking into her phone camera. "If you're seeing this, something has happened to me. I've uncovered a trafficking ring operating out of the police force. High-ranking officers are involved. They're using patrol routes, abandoned warehouses, and fake arrests to move women and children. I've gathered proof. I fear for my life. But I won't stop, not until someone takes this evidence to the right people." Ethan's hands trembled. Zara covered her mouth. She was exposing them. Ethan whispered, "They killed her because she knew." Zara looked terrified. "Ethan, if they know she gave this to someone." The door suddenly rattled. 3 slow knocks. Ethan's heart stopped. No one knocked like that at midnight. Zara whispered, "We hide the drive now." Ethan pried open the panel of an old radio on the shelf and shoved the drive inside just as the door shook again. "Mr. Malik," a voice called. "This is Officer Trent. We need to speak with you about an incident tonight." Ethan recognized the voice. It was the tall man from the alley. Zara whispered urgently, "Don't open it." But Ethan knew refusing would look suspicious. He cracked open the door, leaving the chain locked. 2 officers stood there, pretending to look concerned. "We received a report," Officer Trent said calmly. "Someone matching your description was seen in the alley behind Baker Street around the time of a serious incident. Did you see anything?" Ethan kept his voice steady. "I walked home through the main road. I didn't go through the alley." Trent studied him, hard, cold. "Mind if we take a look inside?" Ethan's throat tightened. "My son is asleep. It's late." The second officer stepped forward. "Just routine." Trent raised a hand. No need to stress the man. If he says he saw nothing, he saw nothing. The officer shot him a confused look, but Trent signaled him to leave. Before walking away, Trent looked back at Ethan with a strange, chilling smile. "If you remember something later, we'll be back." They left. Ethan closed the door and locked it immediately, collapsing against it, shaking. "They know." Zara whispered, "They know." Ethan ran a hand over his face. "We need help, but we can't go to the police." Zara nodded. "Then we go above them. Someone outside the city. Someone clean." The next morning, before sunrise, Ethan made a decision. He packed a small bag. He lifted Noah gently, kissed his hair, and carried him to the car. Zara joined them, refusing to let him go alone. They drove 2 hours to a neighboring city and went straight to the Federal Crime Division. Inside, they met Special Agent Miriam Khan Ashar, pied, calm woman who listened carefully as they explained everything. When she saw the videos, her expression changed. "This is serious, if this evidence is real, and it looks very real. You just uncovered one of the biggest internal corruption cases in years. Will you protect Noah?" Ethan asked quietly. Her face softened. "With my life." For the next 2 days, the federal team launched a covert investigation. They traced accounts, matched voice notes, followed officer logs, connected dots. The female cop officer, Liana Hayes, had died trying to expose. Arrests began secretly. High-ranking officers, patrol leaders, the sergeant who ordered her death, and finally, Officer Trent. The news exploded across the country. Corruption ring exposed inside police department. Federal agents arrest 11 officers in major operation. Evidence left by fallen female cop leads to justice of the entire police force. Every honest officer was shaken. Many cried hearing her story. She had died alone in an alley, but not in vain. Ethan was called to the station days later. Agent Miriam handed him a letter. It was from Officer Liana Hayes. She had written it before recording the videos. If anything happens to me and someone finds this, thank you. Please protect the innocent and tell my mother I love her. Ethan wiped tears from his eyes. Noah tugged Ethan's sleeve. Daddy, she was a hero. Ethan nodded. Yes, son, she was. And you helped her, Noah said proudly. Ethan looked away, his voice cracking. I just did what anyone should do, but he knew it wasn't true. Many would have walked away. Many would have ignored a whisper in the rain. Days later, the police chief visited Ethan personally. We owe you more than words, he said. Officer Hayes saved lives, and because of you, her sacrifice wasn't buried. They honored her at a ceremony. Officers stood in rows, saluting the woman they had failed to protect. Ethan, Noah, and Zara attended quietly, respectfully. The chief presented Ethan with a plaque for courage, for integrity, for choosing to act when the world looked away. Noah clapped the loudest. Life slowly returned to normal afterward. Ethan went back to work, Noah back to school, but something in Ethan had changed. For the first time since losing his wife, he felt strength in his chest again. A sense of purpose. He had faced fear and protected his son. He had carried a hero's final mission. Sometimes, in the quiet hours of the night, Ethan would think back to that moment in the alley, rain falling, breath fading, a whisper asking for help. He would remember her eyes, her bravery, and her final words, "Save yourself and your boy." Ethan had done more than that. He had saved her truth. And because of that, an entire police force was changed forever. Justice Liana's justice had finally arrived. Weeks passed, but the shadow of what happened did not fade easily. Even though the corrupt officers had been arrested, Ethan still felt eyes on him, sometimes at the grocery store, at the bus stop, even while locking his door at night. Trauma had a way of lingering, especially after you've watched someone die in your hands, but life went on. Noah's laughter filled their small apartment again. Zara returned to her job at the clinic. And Ethan, after the story became public, was offered work by several local workshops who respected what he had done. But Ethan was different now. Something in him had awakened. He didn't want to live in fear anymore. He didn't want to raise Noah in fear either. One evening, as he was putting Noah to bed, the boy looked up at him with sleepy eyes and whispered, "Daddy, are the bad police gone forever?" Ethan hesitated. "No," he whispered honestly, "but the good ones are stronger now." Noah nodded slowly, trusting his father more than the world. "One day, I want to be like the lady you helped." Ethan's throat tightened. He tucked the blanket closer around Noah and kissed his head. "You already have her heart," he whispered. Later that night, Ethan sat on the balcony, staring at the quiet street. The city lights flickered in the distance. He didn't hear Zara come out until she placed a warm cup of tea beside him. "You're thinking again," she said softly, trying not to. He replied with a small smile, "You did something incredible, Ethan. Most people would have run." He looked down at his hands that had once held a dying woman's final message. "I keep thinking, why me? Why did she choose me? A random single father walking home in the rain." Zara shook her head. "Maybe it wasn't random. Maybe she saw something in you." Ethan didn't know what she meant. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man trying to survive. As they sat quietly, Ethan's phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. The message read, "You missed someone." Ethan froze. Zara saw the fear in his eyes. "What is it?" He showed her the screen, her face drained. "No." She whispered, "The case is closed." But Ethan knew better. You don't dismantle a corruption network without shaking loose pieces you didn't know existed. The arrests had exposed a dozen officers, but maybe not all of them. He texted back, "Who is this?" 3 dots flickered. "Then they're coming for the boy." Ethan's body tensed, his heart hammered. A cold wave of terror washed over him. In an instant, he rushed to Noah's room. The boy was still asleep, hugging his teddy bear, breathing softly. Zara whispered from behind him, "It might be a prank." "No one would joke like that." Ethan said firmly. He locked every door, every window. He double-checked the peephole. Nothing. No footsteps in the hall. No shadows outside, but his instincts, still raw from the night in the alley, screamed danger. At sunrise, he drove Noah and Zara to Agent Miriam's federal office. She was already waiting for him, reading the messages he forwarded. "This isn't random," she said, shutting the file in her hand. "There were more officers involved than we originally identified. The ones who contacted you, they're the remnants, and they want the boy to pressure you into silence." Ethan clenched his fists. Silence about what? The drive exposed everything. Miriam studied him carefully, not everything. Officer Hayes had a second evidence set, one she never got the chance to hide. Ethan swallowed hard. What kind of evidence? Miriam looked at Noah through the glass window where the boy sat coloring with a female agent, the kind that ties a politician to the network, a powerful one. Ethan felt like the ground dropped beneath him. "So they want me because they think I know where the second evidence is. They think she told you before she died." Miriam confirmed, "But she didn't. I swear she didn't." Ethan said. Miriam nodded. "I believe you, but they don't." Ethan looked through the glass again at Noah, innocent, oblivious, small. The idea that someone wanted to harm him made Ethan's vision blur with rage. "What do I do now?" he asked. "You stay under protection," Miriam replied. "Safe house, new phone, limited movement, until we catch the remaining officers." Ethan agreed without hesitation. 2 hours later, they were moved into a secure apartment building under federal watch. Noah thought it was a vacation. Zara tried to pretend it was normal. Ethan couldn't sleep for even a minute. Every creak made him jump. Every car that slowed outside made his heart stop. 3 days passed quietly. On the 4th night, Noah shook Ethan awake. "Daddy, someone's knocking." Ethan jolted upright. It was 2:13 a.m., a slow, steady knock, just like the one Officer Trent made. Ethan grabbed Noah and rushed to the panic button that alerted the agents downstairs. Zara woke up, panicked, grabbing her phone. The knock came again. A voice followed. "Mr. Malik, open the door." Ethan didn't recognize the voice, but that didn't mean it was safe. Footsteps thundered up the hallway as agents rushed toward the apartment. Ethan held Noah close, shielding him. Within seconds, federal agents stormed the hall, hands up. One shouted, "Step away from the door." Another barked. A scream echoed Zara's. A gunshot cracked through the air. Then silence. Ethan froze. His breath came sharp and painful. He pushed Noah behind him, heart pounding. The agents shouted in the hall, suspect down. Ethan opened the door a crack. A man lay on the floor, bleeding, a gun in his hand, wearing civilian clothes, but with a police tattoo on his wrist. One of the corrupt officers. He had found them. Zara trembled beside Ethan, covering her mouth. Agent Miriam arrived moments later, kneeling to examine the attacker. He was one of the disappearances, went off grid when the others were arrested. Ethan's chest tightened. "How did he find us?" Miriam's expression turned grim. "Someone leaked your safe house location." Ethan felt his throat close. "Someone inside your agency. We're investigating," Miriam said quietly. Ethan stared at the attacker's lifeless body. He wasn't afraid for himself anymore. He was only afraid for Noah. Miriam placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "We'll move you again. Stronger protection, this time. No one will know the location except 3 people." Ethan nodded, but as he packed their bags, he found a note slipped under the bed. 3 words written in a hurried scrawl. "She trusted you." Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. "Why me? Why does everyone think I know something?" Zara touched his arm. "Maybe because you were the last person she saw." Ethan tried to remember every second of that night, the rain, the blood, her eyes, her last breaths. He remembered her whispering about saving his boy, but he did not remember anything about a second evidence set. Unless a memory flickered, a movement, a gesture. When she handed him the flash drive, her other hand had touched her jacket pocket briefly, a moment he barely noticed in the chaos. But she didn't take anything out. She only brushed it. Ethan's heart stopped. Her jacket pocket. It might still be somewhere. Ethan whispered, "The second evidence. I think I know where it is." Zara straightened. "Where?" Ethan stood slowly, his voice low and trembling. "It's with her body." Agent Miriam stopped in her tracks. Ethan, are you absolutely sure? She tried to reach that pocket before she died, Ethan said, but the corrupt officers arrived before she could give me anything else. Miriam took a deep breath. Her body is being stored as evidence. If the remaining corrupt officers want something from her, they might already be planning to tamper with it. She looked at him gravely. We need to get there first. Before dawn, Ethan, Zara, and several federal agents traveled quietly to the secure morgue facility on the outskirts of the city. The halls were cold, silent, sterile. Ethan felt his chest tighten as they approached the storage room. Agent Miriam unlocked the door. Ethan stepped inside. He saw her body covered respectfully, tagged as part of an ongoing investigation. But even in death, Officer Liana Hayes looked brave. Ethan's hands shook as he gently reached toward the pocket of her uniform. He hesitated. Zara whispered, "It's okay, Ethan." He slid his fingers into the pocket. Something thin and metallic touched his hand, a memory card. Agent Miriam's eyes widened. You were right. But before she could take it, a gunshot exploded somewhere in the building. The lights flickered. A voice echoed through the hallway. No one leaves with that evidence. They had been followed again, this time by more than one person. Ethan grabbed the memory card and ducked behind a metal table as bullets struck the wall, sparks flying. Zara screamed and hid behind a cabinet. Agents rushed to shield them. Then Noah's terrified voice echoed from the hall, "Daddy." He had followed them inside. Ethan's blood turned to ice. He sprinted out just in time to see two masked men grabbing Noah, dragging him down the hallway. Noah kicked and screamed, "Let me go, Daddy." Ethan charged forward with everything inside him. This wasn't about corruption anymore. This wasn't about evidence. This was about his son, and no force in the world, police, criminals, or corruption was going to take Noah from him. Not while Ethan Malik was still breathing.